Okay, welcome everyone to Off the Cuff Interviews. I'm your host, Labruski. Joining me today is the Cozmik Collector. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you again for coming on. I'm very excited for this interview slash conversation, whatever you want to call it. I was telling you a little bit before we went live. Pretty easy questions, nothing crazy about comics. I do have one that is not comic book related
Mhm.
that I'm going to save for the end. It's a question I like to ask all my guests that I have on. Um, I don't know. It's just a fun little question, but let's jump to the chat real quick before we dive in. We have Captain Underpants Hall of Nerds collab. Let's go. Yes, you are a nerd of the Hall of Nerds, so we welcome you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nicholas Brewer, this is my brother. What's up, Nick? Then we have Beyond Comics. Hope you're doing good, man. He's also Beyond Comics is coming on the show in a couple weeks.
Oh, cool.
So I'm very excited for that. Um, so let's dive in to some of the questions I have for you. First question I'm wondering is where is the name Cozmik Collector come from? Is there an origin? Is it just something you thought of one day and was like, this is cool, let's go with it?
Yeah. So when I was making my account, I was like, I want to collect everything. Everything
Mhm.
in the cosmos. I want to be the cosmic collector. That's just kind of what ran through my mind. And then I was like, but I don't want to just be spelled normal. I wanted something that kind of just like looked cool. And it got to the point where I made a logo. It would look cool, and I thought the Z and the K at the end made it look a little different.
Sure, yeah.
And there were already a lot of other like cosmic themed like usernames out there. So I was like, how can I make it a little bit, more unique? And I just settled on Cosmic Collector.
I like it. It's cool. It's a unique spelling, and I think it works. So other than comics, what else do you collect? What else are you into?
Um, Collection wise, I collect comics, action figures, memorabilia of sorts.
Okay.
I have a very small DVD collection, but I'm kind of building it. It's mostly comic book movies.
Okay.
Um, and then I used to collect a lot of football memorabilia as well. I'm a big football fan.
Gotcha.
That's all in storage now, but um,
So mainly comics.
mainly, yeah, and some
Nice.
figures. I've kind of
Cool.
chilled out because they made them pretty expensive.
Yeah, that's true
Yeah.
for sure. Um, what's your favorite figure? Would you
Ooh.
say if you had to pick one, what would it be? You think?
I just recently bought my first Mezco.
Okay.
Some Mezco Robert Pattinson the Batman. I'm
Nice.
such a big fan of that movie, and that movie has
Yeah.
like such a big like play in everything that I've collected and everything because it was one of the main reasons I got super heavy into collecting.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
so I think it's really cool because I already had the McFarlane version. When I saw the Mezco, I was like, this has to be my first one. It's the reason this
Nice.
whole channel exists. So
Yeah. That's awesome. Speaking of the Batman movie, I'm curious to
mhm.
know your thoughts on the Penguin. If you watch that, I'm a huge fan
Yeah. Oh
of
yeah.
the Penguin. Love it. So I'm guessing you love it as well.
I'm not a big like mafia like TV. Like I don't really like The Sopranos that much. Godfather's not really my thing. So it takes a
Sure.
lot to get me interested in a show like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it did it. Yeah, the Penguin was perfect. It didn't even have
Nice.
Batman in it. And I was still like super
I know.
engaged. And I thought it was one of the best comic book shows I've seen.
I think it's one of the best shows I've ever seen, period.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like it was that good. I'm a big fan of The Sopranos. I love The Sopranos a lot. So I'm a little bit more into the mafia, mob stuff, I guess you could say, like Goodfellas. I really like Goodfellas. Um, so as a fan of those shows, movies, like the Penguin was just amazing, I have to say. Um, my brother has a question. What's your favorite DBZ character? Do you watch or read DBZ? Do you have a
I
favorite character?
I don't really watch any anime or read any manga.
Okay,
And then that I get a lot of like gasps when I say that. That and also when I tell people I don't really mess with Star Wars. People are like,
that's
you're a
fair.
nerd who doesn't mess with Star Wars." I'm like, I don't know, I just never really got into it.
It's just not
It-
your thing.
yeah, I chose Harry Potter over Star Wars when I was
That's
younger.
fair.
So
That's fair.
um
I I will say I'm also I like some anime. I'm not like a huge anime fan.
mm,
I have some manga. Um, but I also I'm kind of with you there where I'm not a huge crazy Star Wars fan either. Like I'm And I would say I'm definitely kind of a nerd. I got a bunch of comics, I got Legos, whatever. But yeah, I'm kind of with you there.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Speaking of Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy is gone. Yes, I believe she's retiring now. That news just broke. And Jay's excited for the future of the IP. That's awesome. Glad. Um, Next question I have for you is, what are you currently reading?
I am reading Bane Conquest by Chuck Dixon. Um,
Bane Conquest. Okay, let me write this
yes.
down because I don't read weekly or monthly issues of
Mhm.
comics. I'm a trade waiter.
That's
Um,
fair.
that's just how I like to collect. I like how it looks on the shelves, and that's just how I like to read, I guess. So Bane Conquest. Okay, I'll need to check that out.
I'm a big trade guy as well. I've trying to collect all the trades from New 52 to current. That's like my
Oh,
goal
nice.
as a collector. And so I've already read all like the big series from New 52 to current, so I'm kind of just working my way through the little ones. So Bane Conquest is just some little like rebirth era Bane story that I just hadn't read gotten to yet.
Okay. Oh, wait. So it's not a new
Oh,
ongoing.
no, this is 2017. I'm reading a
Okay.
lot of like current like coming out stuff. Um, but that's just what
Gotcha.
I'm like currently like mainly reading.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. And who was it by again?
Chuck Dixon. I don't remember the artist's name. I think it's Graham Nolan. I might be wrong on that, but
Okay. I do like Bane a lot. I think he's a cool Batman villain. Beyond Comics asks, what are your favorite New 52 runs? That's a good question.
I'm a big fan of Tomasi and Gleason's Batman and Robin run,
Okay.
Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run, and probably like the Jeff Johns Justice League run from New 52 as well was really good.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I haven't read Batman and Robin. I've read maybe a couple issues. I really enjoyed it. I just haven't. I was probably reading something else at the time. Um, and I've not read Jeff Johns' Justice League either. I want to
Really good. It has like
eventually dive into that.
the have you ever seen the animated movies from the DCAMU? Like
Ah,
Justice League
only
War and Flashpoint Paradox and stuff?
I've seen Flashpoint Paradox, and I think I've seen Justice League War, but I've only
Okay.
seen a couple. So I think those might be actually the only two I've seen. But
War
yeah,
War is based heavily on the first volume of Jeff Johns' run, and then Throne of Atlantis is based almost exactly off the third volume of Jeff Johns' run.
I see.
So it
Okay,
takes a lot of similarities from the New 52 version of the Justice League.
I see. Okay, gotcha. We have another question from the chat from Jay. Favorite Rebirth run, and then do you like Tom King's Batman? He's heard mixed reviews on it.
I'm gonna answer the Tom King question for yes. It's
Okay.
so overhated for like no reason. It does have a slow start, but I think it's the opposite of Scott Snyder's run. Scott Snyder has a very strong start and kind of finishes slow, and then Tom King has a very slow start and finishes phenomenal because he uses Bane as his like main villain for the whole like I want to say it's 18 volumes. Like it's a lot of
Okay. Wow.
issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, or it's 13 volumes. But
Gotcha.
yeah, he uses Bane for all those, like as an overarching villain, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's so genius, and he's like my favorite villain, so it was cool to see him in it. And the art all around just it switches art a lot, but every artist they choose just draws Batman so well. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, but favorite Rebirth run? That's tough. Oh, Rebirth Flash, Joshua Williamson would probably be my favorite, or Rebirth Superman by Tomasi and Patrick Gleason.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, there you go, Jay. Um, Next question I have for you is what's your first comic that you remember reading?
I actually know exactly which one it was. So I was always a fan of the TV shows and stuff, but one day we were like in Book Simulator. I don't remember how old I was, maybe like 12 or 13,
Mhm.
and there was a Deadpool book that I saw, and I was like, oh, cool, Deadpool seemed interesting. Can I get
Yeah.
this? So I got it. It was Deadpool like Volume 3 by Daniel Way. It was just a random volume in a random series, and I was like, Deadpool looks cool. Little did I know later down the line I would be like a stickler for reading everything in order. But
Sure.
I just picked it up and read it, and then I got like a hundred single issues from a garage sale, and then that was just like my only collection until I was way older. So
Gotcha. That's funny you say Deadpool, and specifically that you bought a trade out of order and read
Mhm.
it, and that was your first comic because I was interviewing someone else, Jordan from the Brave and the Boys YouTube channel. He had a very similar answer. He said Deadpool, and I can't remember what volume it was, but it was not the first volume of that run, and he just read it. So it's funny you say that. It's like
Yeah.
that's
It was a
interesting.
very fun introduction into comics because, it's not too
Yeah,
serious, not a really heavy tone. So as a teenager, I was like, "Oh, this is funny. This is cool."
yeah.
It's Deadpool.
I
Yeah.
I find too that a lot of people, their first superhero comic that they read tends to be Deadpool now. And I think it's more of like, people our age and whatnot. Um, and I just find that interesting because Deadpool is especially like I said, more for our generation, such a popular superhero, and so I don't know. I just find that interesting that a lot of people's first comic or superhero comic tends to be Deadpool. Um, I will ask you, do you still like Deadpool comics? Because I feel like they're kind of mixed. So I'm curious to know.
So I'm mainly a DC guy. Like when it comes to comics, at least, like I love all the Marvel movies and the shows and stuff like that. But when it comes to comics, I'm really only reading the Ultimate Universe in Marvel. I do
Okay,
have a shelf dedicated to just my Deadpool trades, and I'm trying to collect them all, and then I'm gonna do like a full Deadpool, like from beginning to end reading order. So I'll catch
nice,
up to everything now. But all I've read is Daniel Way's run. I've read, I think, all 4 volumes of it at this point because I read the
nice.
third and I was like, I need more. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So you mentioned that you only or you mainly read DC. Why is that? Do you prefer it more than Marvel? I guess so, but is there like a specific reason why?
I don't know. When I always try to explain, it doesn't come out right. I'm like, it's the tone, but not
Mm,
necessarily like because obviously Marvel has some dark comics. DC's not inherently darker. Like
sure.
their Thor is going to be darker than DC's Blue Beetle, but just the universe has a darker tone. If that makes sense, a more realistic tone.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I
It
don't know.
it
I
does.
like the characters and the lore and just like the layout of the universe. Especially with like the multiverse and stuff like that. I find it way less confusing over at DC.
Interesting. Okay. Um, yeah, I guess for me it's I would prefer, I guess, Marvel, but I do read both. I would say somewhat equally too. Like, but it's interesting too because like Marvel, they tend not to like make up cities, have these like fictional places like DC does, you know? Um, And so a lot of people almost say like the opposite. That's they find Marvel to be more in like the real world because that a lot of the superheroes are they live in New York City or wherever, San Francisco, and they don't live in like Gotham City or Metropolis or whatever. So that's interesting. Yeah, I do. So you like the more serious tone of the DC universe, correct?
Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, I like some of the fun stuff like Blue Beetle and the
Sure.
lighter hearted characters, but I definitely find myself enjoying it more when it's like a more serious kind of comic, like a Batman comic, or
Okay.
I've been really getting into like the Authority, like Midnighter and Apollo. Those are really good. Um, so I do like those a little bit more, but I can enjoy like the lighthearted ones like Superman and the Flash and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. No, that makes sense. Um, my brother says DC reminds me of daytime television. I don't know if I agree with that,
I
Nick.
don't know what that means.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what that means either. Uh, my brother Nick also asked, "What do you think of Gotham?" A very I feel like a blanket statement. What do you think of Gotham?
I think you might be talking about the TV show.
Okay, all right, that makes more sense. Yeah.
I think I've only seen the first season. I started to do like a full
Okay.
watch of it, and then I just fell off. I really need to go back and watch it all because I've heard it's really good all the way through.
I've heard it gets a little choppy. I've seen probably around the first season too. Um, have you read Gotham Central though?
I haven't. That's Ed Brubaker's run, right?
Yeah, Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka, I think.
Oh, great, great. Okay.
Yeah, I believe. You need to read that. It's different from Gotham, but a lot of people were saying when the Gotham TV series was announced, they were hoping it'd be like Gotham Central, and it was not, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Let's see what else do we have here. What's your favorite book that isn't a comic?
I am a big Percy Jackson fan. I love all the
Percy
Percy
Jackson.
Jackson.
Okay.
Yes, all the books, even like the second series with like the Roman gods, and then I read the Egyptian one, the or not the Kane Chronicles, and yeah,
Yeah.
I just love like the mythology and stuff like that. So
Awesome.
Percy
I used
Jackson.
to, yeah, those books are great. What do you think about the Disney Plus show? Have you seen that?
It was okay. I don't
Okay.
know. See, like I always liked the movies, but as a fan of the books, I was like, yeah, they're not the right ages. They change stuff. But when
Mhm.
it came to the like show, it felt like they were trying so hard to make it like the books that it just felt stale in
Okay.
places.
Interesting.
Yeah, like the acting
Interesting.
was fine, the character, like the castings were fine. It was just like the way the world was, it felt less cinematic and more just like, I don't know. It wasn't as captivating as the movies were.
Okay. That's fair. Jay asks, what is that t-shirt saying? Yeah, what does your t-shirt say?
Oh, it just says waiting for death, like with the guy sitting at a bus station.
Oh, that's funny. That's a cool t-shirt. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, my
It's my
brother
shirt that I
says
usually wear to work, so the customers know that I don't want to be there.
that's fair. Oh, that's funny. My brother says Lucas and I used to pretend we were Percy Jackson in our childhood pool. I don't really remember that, but I wouldn't doubt it. I did love Percy Jackson, especially
Yeah,
growing up.
we did the same thing. We'd like splash the water
Yeah.
and be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Son of Poseidon."
Yep, yep. We have Alexander Miller here, aka the Comic
Ye-
Central. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for tuning in. Let's see. Jay says the Norse mythology books are my favorite with Magnus Chase. I want to cop that shirt. Good taste, my man. I agree. I do like that shirt a lot. In Norse mythology, those books, you said you enjoyed those books as well, correct?
I read the first Magnus Chase book. I never see Norse is kind of where they lost me. Like
Yeah.
I really like Greek, I really like
Yeah,
Roman, and I really like Egyptian. But when I got to the Norse, it just wasn't for me because I was like, I might as well just read a Thor book, you know?
that's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. I will say for myself, what turned me on to the Norse mythology in particular was God of War, the 2018. I don't know if you
That's fair.
played that,
I never
but
got around to it.
oh, dude, you got to. I love
Uh,
that. I love that game and the sequel. I think they're both great. Um, but I have not read the Percy Jackson spinoffs, but this seems interesting. I will say. Okay, let's see here. Um, what is the comic that you would say impacted you the most?
um,
If you
well,
have
after
one.
I like I said, I got really into collecting after the Batman came out. I went to the store and I picked
Okay,
up a Robert Pattinson action figure, and I picked
nice.
up the comic that probably spiraled it all out was Batman Volume One, the New 52 by Scott Snyder, Court of
Okay,
Owls.
yep,
So I
yep.
read that first volume, and then from there on out, it just spiraled into everything
It was
else.
out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say that probably impacted where I'm at the most. As for like what story impacted me, um, I really that's a really hard question. I think Invincible
Okay.
is such an amazing story.
Yeah,
Um, that
I
and
agree.
that and Deceased. I really like Deceased as well.
I have not read Deceased.
It's my favorite series of all time.
I've heard nothing but great things about it. So I really need to check that out eventually. I'm gonna make a note of that because I'll forget. Um, Deceased. Who's that by? Is that Tom Taylor
Tom
or
Taylor and
okay?
Taylor Hairsign is on the art. I'm pretty sure
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about it, and I think there's an omnibus coming out.
there is. Yeah, they announced one
I
last year.
believe.
There's also a box set if you want all like the individual trades, but
Okay.
they're more of a trade game.
Do you collect omnibuses or do you do just single issues trades?
It depends. I have like 7 or 8 of them, but I the way I see it is if it's in continuity, I try to avoid it just because I feel
Ooh,
like continuity is read better by trades. Because
interesting.
sometimes there will be a trade for this one series, and then this other
Mhm.
series will link up to it. If I don't want to have to put a bookmark in the middle of my Omni, read this trade, then come back to my Omni.
I see.
So when I pick up an omnibus, it's usually for like a self-contained story, like Invincible, Saga, stuff like that. You know, stuff that has a beginning and an end without a whole bunch of tie-ins that I can just read all the way through.
Gotcha. Okay. That's interesting. I've never heard someone like explain it like that. That The reading order. Yeah, yeah. I like that. That's cool.
Like I said,
Uh,
I'm a stickler for reading order. Like I have to read the stuff before.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, for me, I would agree. I think the reading order can be a very daunting at times, especially for new readers. Because, like, I think the biggest issue with comic books, especially the big two, is the marketing of like where do you start and what's a good comic to start with. But I guess that's where we come in and we tell the audience, hey, read this Batman book first or this Superman, whatever.
And yeah, and
Um,
they like to market certain points as, hey, jump on here moments like with All In.
right.
And I'm thinking, no, that's a horrible place to start. Everything has to do with Absolute Power. If you didn't read Absolute Power, you have no idea what's
It won't
going
make
on in
sense.
most of these titles.
Yeah.
Same with like All In. It was like, yeah, you guys started with a bunch of number ones, but all these characters had stuff going on right before this that they mentioned in the first issue. You
Right.
know,
Right. Right. Yeah. So you mentioned Invincible. So I want to ask you, what do you think of the show?
I think it's great. I think
Yeah.
it's one of the most well written like animated shows of all time. I think the animation's spotty, but it's nothing to the point where it like ruins the show for me.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think, especially with this third season, it seems like the animation's not bad,
Mm.
but it's not like I wouldn't even say it's like good at
It's
times.
just very okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it's spotty, and I think compared to especially like the first season and the second, like it's like what's going on here? Like I feel like they need to, I don't know, step it up a little bit when it comes to the animation.
Yeah.
I think the writing's great. I love the story. I've read all the comics. I just love the story of Invincible. So I do think they're adapting it very well for television. And yeah, I agree with you completely. Let's see. Jay asked, "What is your favorite single issue?" If you have
Uh
one, I feel like that's a tough question.
I do. I actually have a very
Okay,
specific single issue that I love.
awesome.
It's New 52 Batman and Robin issue. Crap, I think it's 18, 17 or 18. It's Requiem for Damien. It's
Okay,
basically right after Damian Wayne just died, and is a silent issue. There are no words in it. It's drawn by Patrick Gleason, and it's about Batman's like first night out after his son just died. After he
wow,
just buried his son, and it has some of the most like the visuals. Like there's
right.
one point where Gordon goes up on the roof to you know shine the bat signal, and when he turns it on, the roof is littered like 50, 60 people just tied up like criminals because Batman
Oh
had just been
wow,
going ham all night to like let out his frustrations.
wow,
And it's a really, and then at the end you kind of just see him like he just like punches the wall and he's like just sitting in the shower and he kind of like kneels down next to Robin's costume, and it's such a powerful issue with no words, and I love it
yeah.
so much.
I love when really any sort of medium uses or relies solely on a visual storytelling. And we don't see it too much in movies or TV shows. Although I can give you two great examples of that. Is I just watched Flow, this new animated show that's up for or animated movie up for Oscars.
Mhm.
No dialogue whatsoever. It follows a cat in like this apocalyptic world, solely relies on visual storytelling. I think it succeeds, but also too, in I think it's Invincible season 3, episode 3, maybe episode 2. The very opening scene with the two villains that seems like they're in a relationship and they're struggling to kind of make ends meet. And I
Yeah.
think that does a really good job of visual storytelling. So I guess tying this all back in, I do appreciate when any medium can do that successfully. And I have not read. You said it was Batman and Robin, and that's by Tomasi and Gleason, right?
Mhm.
I've not read that, but I definitely want to check that out. That sounds interesting, for sure. So
It is
I think
pretty good.
that's a great answer. Great answer. Um, Alexander asked Marvel or DC. We kind of answered this already. DC
DC.
is what you prefer. Um, Jay says deceased is more metal than metal. Hot take. What do you think about that? Would you agree? I haven't read either, so I really don't have
I
a stake in this.
I
In
feel like
this.
I need a definition for the word metal, like in what
Okay.
context?
Okay,
Because
that's fair.
like they're hardcore in two different ways. Like Deceased is definitely more like gory and like, but I want like and darker. But like the actual like art and the tone of metal is a lot more like. I don't know how to explain it. Like it's a bunch of different characters from the dark multiverse that are like Batman fused with another hero. Like Red
Gotcha.
Death is evil Batman Flash, you know, Devastator is evil Batman Doomsday. Like that's pretty metal, I guess you could say. So
Sure.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Jay, give us a better definition of metal. We have Panelloids, comic
Hey,
books, and more. What's up, my guys? What's up with
I
you?
was on their podcast a couple
Thank you
months
for
ago.
joining. Thank you so much. My brother also asked, "Oh, nice mug, by the way. I have the same exact
Oh,
mug.
thank you.
Yeah, that's my favorite mug I have. I love that mug. Um, my brother asked, "What hobbies do you have outside of comics and collecting?"
I just started like getting into D&D a lot.
Nice.
Um, I really like football, big football fan. Um, that's pretty, and then I work a lot. That's pretty much it. That's
Okay.
um, I
What
play
do
video
you
games, but
play video games? Gotcha. What do you do for work?
I am a cook in a
You're a
kitchen
cook.
in a bowling alley. It is not fun, especially when there are tourists. Because I'm in a tourist town, and
Oh,
dude,
gotcha. Yeah, I can imagine that may get a little crazy at times, especially in a bowling alley with tourists, especially when there's alcohol maybe involved with it, uh, bowling. So, yeah, totally understand. Favorite football team?
I used to hate saying this on here because I'd get bullied, but now that we suck, it's okay. I am a Patriots fan.
The Patriots fan.
Yeah,
Okay,
we suck now, so no one really bullies me anymore.
that's fair. Um, awesome. So, next question I have for you is what's a comic that you'd recommend to a new reader that you think anyone will enjoy if there is one?
Um, a new reader. See, I get a lot of like comments all the time, like, "Hey, where should I start with comics?" And I always
Mhm.
tell them, you know, pick a character, and I'll give you something. You know,
Sure.
it's so hard to just narrow it down. So if I'd probably take out the big two, just because it's so much, and give like an indie comic.
Sure, yeah.
Um, and I really, if it's an older person, obviously, I'd really recommend Saga. Obviously, don't read it if you're younger because it is not
Saga's
appropriate for
great.
younger. Yeah, but Saga is a phenomenal story.
I
It
love it
is
so
so
much.
great. Um, and then like I really think the universe is some of the
Okay.
best stuff out right now outside of Marvel and DC. You know, Void Rivals, Transformers,
Yeah.
all the GI Joe stuff. It's really good.
I have not read those yet. I'm kind of waiting for the hardcovers. That's like I love collecting hardcovers like that, and so I'm very excited to dive into that universe when those finally come out. I think later this spring. But Saga Man is like one of my favorite comics ever, and I feel like maybe that's a bit of a cliche thing to say, but it's like I don't care. I think it's
So
just a
good.
phenomenal,
Yeah, because it mixes
phenomenal.
like all the like all the stuff. Like it's got, you know, you have
Yeah,
your like fantasy kind of intertwined with sci-fi, and it's like
right.
this classic, you know, Romeo and Juliet story with a whole bunch of twists and wacky characters, and you
It's
got your evil monarchy and your
yeah,
intergalactic war, and it's so cool.
it's just so much packed into a comic, but yet it works.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I think that's probably my favorite ongoing series right now. Yeah, I love it. But uh, Alexander says he can't read Saga. He must be under 18. I mean, you could technically, but we're not going to promote it because it
Yeah.
is very intense and
It
very
is
adult.
very, yeah.
It can be at times. So yeah, I would definitely wait. I guess.
Yeah.
Jay asks, what is your most anticipated hardcover for 2025?
2025. I don't know. Most of the time, I only like I pick up single issues for ongoings, and then I'll
Mhm.
pick up the trade when it drops too to add to like my
Sure.
continuity order. So there's not really anything I'm anticipated just because I've already read it. You know, if that makes sense. I'm just
Yeah.
picking it up just because I want the trade.
Sure. No, that
Um,
makes sense for
but
sure.
I kind of want to get the Chuck Dixon like Nightwing hardcover when they drop it.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Um, awesome. So what is your personal favorite comic that you've ever read? If it's not like the same as like your most, the one that impacted you the most, if it's a different answer, what would you say?
Oh yeah, it was Deceased. Deceased is like my favorite comic in general all time. I think it
Wow.
has some of the best writing, some of the best character development. It actually did something that most comics can't, and it wrote Damien really, really well.
Okay.
Um, it's every single volume has a different like feel with different characters, and it's done so perfectly. The Trinity in it, with it being John, Damien, and Cass, are just perfect. I think Volume Two is my favorite. It's about like a group of villains that have to protect like a school of children from zombies, and you see the villains slowly start to gain like parental responsibilities over these kids as they start to become more hero like because they want to
Okay.
protect these children. So it's like Cheetah and Deathstroke and Bane and Grundy, characters you would think would never do these things, and you could slowly
Sure.
see them redeeming themselves because they want to protect these kids. I think it's such an interesting story.
All right. Hell yeah. That's like I said, I've been meaning to check that out now forever, but you've sold me even more on it. Um, let's see. Alexander asks, "What do you think of Absolute DC?" That's
It's
an
the best
interesting
thing in comics right now. It's
best thing
phenomenal.
in comics right now. I feel like that's not a very it's not like a hot take. Like I think a lot of people would agree. I've only read the first issue of all three of like Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. Um I'm curious to know, what's your favorite like absolute DC line right now out of those three, and are there more out? Yeah, I know they're
There's three, and then the rest release in March. So Martian Manhunter, Flash, and
gotcha.
Green Lantern release in March.
Gotcha. So out of the three that are out, what's your favorite, would you say?
I'd probably go Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, but
Okay.
it's so hard rating tens, like if they're all tens. But I think Batman is definitely my number one. Um,
Okay. Cool. Yeah, out of the three I've read, and mind you, I've only read the first issue of each. I think Wonder Woman might be
Wonder
my
Woman is
favorite.
so
I
good.
really dug it.
That's why I
And
said it's hard rating tens because they're all
yeah,
so good.
yeah, I did enjoy all. I think my rating would be Wonder Woman, Batman, and then Superman. I really thought the Absolute Wonder Woman was just amazing. I will buy the trade of that for sure.
Oh yeah.
Um, let's see. Alexander, Damien is amazing. Jake and my brother didn't agree on my podcast. I do like Damien Wayne a lot. I think from what I've read, I think he's a cool character. Bunk Master B, what's up, dude? Glad you are here. Tom Taylor definitely knows how to recontextualize a comic universe. First with Deceased, then with Dark Knights of Steel, which have you read that? I've heard that's
Dude,
great too.
it's so good. I think
Yeah.
Tom Taylor's genuinely one of the best Elseworld writers.
Okay. Great. Yeah. I've heard nothing but great things about both of those, so I'm definitely going to need to check those out. He's great at making things feel new and familiar at the same time. Uh, would you agree with that? Do you think he's good at making it feel new and familiar at the same
Yeah.
time with
He takes these characters that already have like pre-established lore and he puts them in this like, this new world, this new
Sure.
scenario. But he does it in a way that if you're a new reader, you don't have to know everything about these characters because it's a completely new story. You're falling
Sure.
in love with a different type of character growth than what they're getting in main continuity. So it's really cool the way he does it, and he makes it feel fresh at the same time because you're making them in a zombie apocalypse. You're making
Right.
them in medieval times.
Right.
You're making Superman turn evil, and it's like your own little DC Civil War. There's so much stuff that he's done in the Elseworld genre that I think is just 10 out of 10 all around.
Gotcha. Injustice too, which I guess
I
he did.
agree.
I didn't
I
know
agree.
that. I didn't know he did
Yeah.
Injustice.
And I will
I've heard.
defend Injustice until the day I die because
Okay.
the only problem people have with Injustice is that it changed the public's perception of Superman.
Sure.
That's not Tom Taylor's fault. It's an Elseworld story. It's not. Nobody reads Red Sun and then thinks, oh, Superman's a Russian communist. Like
Sure.
no, it's an Elseworld story, and it's so amazingly written. The characters are all written out of character, but again, it's an Elseworld. Like you can't
Right.
really judge
It's
it too hard.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's the fun of an Elseworld story is that they are the same character, but slightly different. So yeah, I totally agree. I think Absolute is great, but I'm really surprised how good the All In initiative has been as well. DC killing it. Um, yeah, I mean, I there's so much buzz I feel like around DC now, and really Marvel, with these like two new universes that they started. Um, and it's interesting because they are both, I guess, out of continuity technically, right? I'm not sure how the continuity works. Maybe you can shed some light on that if I'm incorrect. But it is interesting how like a new universe has really made comics popular. I don't want to say again because I think comics have always been popular, but have really boosted the popularity, I guess, lately. Um, Absolute Man, Martian Manhunter is about to come out, and I can't wait. Dennis Camp is maybe my favorite writer in comics right now. Yeah, I that has a lot of buzz around that. Absolute
Dennis
Martian
Camp is
Manhunter.
awesome. I met him at MegaCon. He was so
Oh,
nice. Like,
nice.
yeah, he's so great. I just emailed him about getting him on our podcast. So hopefully we'll, for anybody watching, don't spread that. It's supposed to be a surprise. But yeah,
Well, that's
hopefully getting him on the
awesome.
podcast soon.
That's fantastic. Did Dennis Camp, did he do 20th Century Men? Do you know?
Yes, he did. I didn't
I
read it, but I saw it at his booth when I was there. So he definitely did.
gotcha. Yeah, because Bunkmaster B, he was on my show a couple weeks ago now. And he was talking about that. And when I read Dennis Camp, I'm like, that rings a bell. And I'm ordering 20th Century Men soon. So I'm very excited to dive into that. Also, too, speaking of MegaCon, tell me about it. What was it like? I've never been to like a Comic Con of any sort. So
So this is my third one. First one I went to was in New York. So like these last two were obviously like not as insanely packed as New York.
sure.
But this year was insane because it had like one of the best lineups ever for a convention, not just for the celebrities, but for the comic creators going. Just all around. It was a huge, like stacked guest list. I went with a lot of like comic talk buddies. The whole Hall of Nerds podcast was
Yep.
there,
Yep.
as well as like 10 other like creators, and we kind of just walked around, hung out, made content, played basketball. It was a fun trip. We saw Jeremy Adams and David Nakayama again. We had already had them on the pod, so it was cool seeing them again. And yeah, I got to meet Patrick Gleason, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
And he recognized me from TikTok while I was waiting in line for him.
No way.
Because yeah, we're mutuals. It's a funny story. I was on live one night and I was talking about Batman and Robin and how I love like the Hellbat armor
Yeah.
and him fighting Darkseid with the Hellbat armor. And then I get a comment that says, it was a bunch of fun designing that. It's such a cool armor. And I was like, what? And then I see it and it says like Pat, and I'm like, I click on it. It's like, oh, it's Patrick Gleason.
That's crazy.
And then he follows me after, and yeah, I'm sitting in line, and he points at me and goes, "I know you from somewhere." And then I got up there and talked to him. We were talking about my content, and he was really really nice. It was fun.
That's fantastic. Would you say that was like the highlight of the trip?
Like meeting someone wise, yes. I think the highlight was just hanging out with my friends. It's so much
Yeah.
different like knowing these people online and then to just all hang out and it just be like a vibe. Like
Yeah.
everyone's getting along, everyone's having fun, and it's just a bunch of dudes talking comics, playing with action figures, and shooting basketball. Like it's a vibe.
So that was the first time you guys all met. Is that correct?
Well, I'd met Nate when I went to Colorado, a couple last year. I had met Mac a couple times because he only lives a couple hours from me.
Gotcha.
But besides that, yeah, that was my first time meeting pretty much everyone else.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. And where was MegaCon? Was it? I know it was somewhere in Florida,
Orlando.
Orlando. Nice. Yeah, man. I remember when I was seeing posts on socials and stuff. It looked like a blast. So I'm glad it was. Let's see here. Dark Knights of Steel had one of my favorite Green Arrow Black Canary moments ever, and it's not even the canon versions of the characters.
I love what they did with Black Canary and Deceased because they made her a Green Lantern. Like almost, I think in the first
Oh,
issue, they made her into a Green Lantern, and she's
oh,
like
that
Batman
sounds
the whole
awesome.
time.
That
Yeah,
sounds sweet. I'm really excited to read that. Brother John Comics, hope you're doing well. Glad you're here. Let's see. Injustice is solid, but when you've had Elseworlds like Kingdom Come in the Golden Age, It's hard to see the execution as anything new. Well done, but not groundbreaking. Okay, I guess that's fair. My brother asked, have you had to meet a comic character in real life? Who would it be and why?
I think the most obvious would be Superman. Like,
Sure.
he's just, he's inspiring, he's hopeful. He's this godlike character that will like talk to you like a normal person because that's how he sees you. He sees you as like the same, you know?
Right.
Because that's how he was raised. And I think if I had like 5 minutes to talk to Superman, I think I would have the motivation to do anything for the rest of my life because like I just know that like radiates off of him. Like obviously
Sure.
Batman's cool. I would love to meet Batman, but I think I would leave that one more depressed than than when I went into it. So
Sure.
yeah, probably
Oh, that's
Superman.
funny. That's funny. That makes a lot of sense. Um, let's see. Bunkmaster B, 20th Century Men was one of my books of the year, or was my book of the year in 2023. And Maxwell's Demons is my favorite book of all ever put out. I've not read that.
I have neat.
Camp is similar to Hickman with big concepts, but can be more genuinely fun. Got it. That's cool. Awesome.
Hey,
Um,
that's
yeah. What do you like Hickman as a writer?
I haven't read a lot because I'm like I said, I'm not huge into Marvel, but I've read Secret
Right.
Wars, I've read Ultimate Spider-Man, and then I'm reading Wolverine Revenge. So those are all three Hickman. I'm loving them all. I love Secret
Awesome.
Wars, and then both of those Marvel titles I'm consistently picking up, so they've got to be good. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't mind Hickman. I like the way he handles like the cosmic side. Like same with like Jason Aaron and Donny Gates and stuff like that. And I would love to
Sure.
see like Hickman come over and write like a Green Lantern book. I think that would be perfect for DC because he handles all that like big
Right.
concept intergalactic stuff so well.
He does. He does for sure. Um, what a great answer and a great realization of who Superman is. I agree for sure. Let's see. My brother asked, "How did you feel about the first Suicide Squad movie?" He That's funny.
Were you in my live the other night? Because we were just talking about it. I was getting grilled for saying that it was good.
Okay.
I think it was fun. I think it's just as good as James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
Wow.
I think they're both phenomenal movies. The only problem, I compare it to TASM 2 because I tell myself I block out Green Goblin from TASM 2 just like I block out Jared Leto's Joker from the Suicide Squad movie. And if you block out both of those, they're both amazing movies. So
Interesting.
and they're both not key parts of the movie. Like he literally just
Right.
Green Goblin just exists to kill Gwen Stacy, and Joker just exists to give Harley motivation.
Right.
That's basically it. So if you just like block them out of your brain, they're both great movies.
Interesting. Okay. Um, I don't necessarily agree with you that it's as good as James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
That's right. That's where I usually lose people. Is
Yeah.
that statement?
Yeah. But I respect it. I respect the statement for sure. And hey, if you enjoy the movie, power to you. I think that's
There you
awesome.
go. That's where I'm at like Man of Steel. Like
Yeah.
if you enjoy Man of Steel as a movie, that is your opinion at the end of the day. You enjoy a movie, you
Sure.
enjoy a movie. But never look at me and say that's a good representation of Superman. Because that is where we can bring up like comic books and be like, is it though?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. It's funny. I took a class in college about comics, and for one of the classes, the history of comics, we watched um the original Superman film and then also Man of Steel and like compared and contrast them kind of.
Yeah.
And my teacher kind of made a similar argument. Like Man of Steel it's not the traditional Superman, I guess, or even like in the continuity of the DC universe, but it's more of a modern day, I guess,
Yeah.
origin of Superman. So that's kind of the argument he made, similar to yours. Um, let's see. DC reminds me of daytime. Okay, thank you for finally
Actually,
clarifying. DC reminds me of daytime TV because I remember watching it Adam West Batman while being sick from school. Does reading any comic or watching any comic bring you back to a certain time in your life? That's a good question.
um, actually, recently, Mark Waid has been really like with Justice League Unlimited and Batman and Robin Year One has like
Sure.
really brought me back to that feeling of just like watching Batman the animated series and watching Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
You know, like Dan Mora and Chris Samney's art on both of those. It's just so reminiscent of just like early 2000s animation that it just brings me back to my childhood watching those animated shows.
Sure. Yeah. That's awesome. I haven't read too much of World's Finest yet, but I want to. I mean, all of what Mark Waid and Dan Mora is doing, I've heard nothing but great things. So
Oh,
need to. You good?
sorry. Yeah, my cat's going ham on something over there.
Gee, my cat will do
Sure.
that too. My cat's
Yeah, just
funny. I'm
knocking
like,
things over.
oh,
Be
that's
okay.
funny. Alexander, I'm now subscribed. Thank you, Alex. Um, Watching Age of Ultron and Civil War brings me back to high school and being hyped on the trailers. Yeah, I remember the first trailer that I was really hyped on, I think was Age of Ultron. I think that was the
Age of
first.
Ultron. So overhated, that movie.
I really enjoyed it. I
I
mean, I
think so
haven't seen it in
too.
years, but I remember like enjoying it when I watched it. And yeah, I thought it was a good movie overall, I will say. Um, Here's my dad, Adam West. Batman was awesome. The best was the Super Friends on Saturday morning. I've never watched Super Friends. It's I don't know. Have you? Have you seen that one?
I haven't. I've seen like bits and pieces, but yeah, it's a little bit kind of outdated
For sure.
for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. No, I
Is
agree.
this is your dad? You said?
This is my dad. Yeah. So
Oh, that's cool.
he grew up in the 70s and whatnot. So he was definitely watching Super Friends on Saturday mornings.
Did he get
Alexander,
you into like comics and stuff
well,
like that?
it's funny. He not comics, but he did introduce me to movies a lot. Like Superman, he introduced me to the original film, a Star Wars too. He's a big Star Wars guy and he
Yeah.
introduced me to those films. So he did kind of fuel, I guess, my passion for superhero movies and whatnot in a lot of ways. The Batman films too, from the Michael Keaton films and whatnot. Um, but it's funny. I've tried to get my dad into comics, and he doesn't really like him. He's used to reading
Mm.
novels, and he just finds the I don't know, the visual aspect of it's like weird to him, because he's so used to just visualizing it all on
In his head.
yeah, in his head. So
Yeah, that's how my
uh,
girlfriend is. She's a big novel reader, and I was like, I'll get you into comics. Just read these. And I gave her some like she's not big into superheroes, so I gave her some indie
sure.
stuff to read. She's a big James Tynion fan now. She read World
Nice.
Tree and The Deviant, and she's like halfway through Something Is Killing the Children.
Wow.
She's loving all the James Tynion stuff.
James Tinian's great.
Yeah,
I've read a lot of what he's done. I like what he's done. Um, I would suggest maybe you have her check out, if you haven't already, Nice House on the Lake.
I did recommend it to her. I haven't read it
Yeah.
yet, but I've heard such good things, and I was like, if you like the horror stuff, you should probably pick this up too.
Yes, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, James Tinian's awesome, especially with like horror comics.
True. And
And
he honestly he has my favorite Batman series. Like I think his Infinite Frontier Batman and his Detective Comics from Rebirth are some of the best Batman stories.
I haven't read his Batman stuff. I think his Batman run is getting uh an
And
Omni.
hmm
I do have his Batman: The Rise and the Fall of the Batman Omni back here, which I think is that Detective Comics? Do you know?
that's his Rebirth run. Yeah, his
Yeah. So
Detective
I
Comics
haven't
run.
read all of it. I read a good portion of it, and I did enjoy it. Um, but what I'm curious, what other comics have you recommended to her to check out?
I gave her Saga.
Nice,
I gave her she's really big into Stranger Things, so I bought her a bunch of like the Stranger Things tie-in ones.
nice.
I recommended Middle West
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
by I think it's Scotty Young and
Scotty
Jorge
Young.
Corona. Yeah, that one's
Yep.
really good. There are a couple other indies. I've got her to keep up with the Absolute universe, so she's all caught up on that.
Nice.
Um, and then Batgirl by Tate Bromball, the new Cassandra Cain
Okay.
run. She's really liking that one as well because she's not super
Nice.
into superheroes, but like she likes the kind of darker,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
female superhero stuff. She's really into Harley Quinn as well.
Yeah. That's awesome. I would suggest, um, And for you too, if you haven't read anything by Zoe Thorogood, I would suggest
That's it. I bought her
it's
her little like novel style like
is
her
it
it's a comic book, but it's about her life, like the biography.
it's Lonely at the Center of the Earth.
That's it. I got it for her because
One
it
of my
looked just
favorite
like her
comics.
vibe.
One of my favorite comics ever. Seriously.
Really?
I absolutely love it. That's one of those books that I'll give to anyone who is like just not a comic book fan or hasn't read comics or doesn't read
Yeah.
comics. That's something I would be like, check this one out. It's an amazing comic and just an amazing piece of like literature all around. So that's awesome. And she's done Zoe Thorogood is like one of my favorite artists and writers working today. Seriously, she's just incredible. She's done another one called The Impending Blindness of Billy Scott. That's really good. I would recommend that one for sure. Um, and I know she has some other things coming out. Yeah, she's great.
And I saw she's starting to kind of break into like the DC space because she has a variant cover for Birds of Prey coming
Yes,
up. So I was like,
yes,
that's cool.
yeah. It will be interesting to see if she will do more superhero stuff. From what I've read about her online and like I watched, she posted some YouTube videos too. It seems like she's not huge into the superhero comics. I think she's going to try to stick to like indies, which I'm totally okay with. I prefer indies over DC and Marvel. That's where I really love
That's
comics,
fair.
you know? So I'm totally okay with that. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure she'll do a bunch more variant covers. You know, I think she's in high demand right now. Um, let's see what reading Scott Pilgrim takes me right back to going to undergrad in the mid 2000s. Oh my god, you're old, dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say undergrad in the
Holy
mid two
shit,
thousands.
dude. I just got done with my undergrad a couple of years ago. That's such a bookmark to that particular point in time. Yeah, that's interesting. Have you read Scott Pilgrim?
I've seen the movie. That's
Yeah, I
about
seen the
it.
movie too. I that's one I hear so much about, and I need to check that out eventually. But um, it is interesting how like books can bring you back to a certain point in time almost, and have a nostalgic factor to it. Um, let's see, Kalen Jones, off the cuff, yes, off the cuff. I love Rise and Fall Detective. Nice. My dad says I'll read one of those Batmans. All right, Dad, you can
There you
try it
go.
out. You can try it
Heck yeah,
out, man.
give him the long Halloween. Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale,
That's a good one. I think, yeah, maybe he would like that.
and then follow it up with
Um,
Dark Victory. That's like your classic Batman detective story. You know,
very
not
true.
too much like action wise on the art. I mean, there is some, but it's just like
Yeah,
classic him being a
for
detective.
sure. For sure. Um, Collector, what's that? What you got into comics and comic movies? What got you into comics and comic movies? Nick, maybe
uh,
slow down typing next time, Nick. All right.
it was all the animated stuff from my childhood, like the early 2000s. You know, I was a big Ninja Turtles fan.
Okay.
Ben 10, you know, Justice League
Yeah.
Unlimited, animated Batman the Animated Series. Teen Titans was one of my favorite.
Nice.
Um, so that kind of just eventually evolved into, you know, comics and movies and stuff like that. It was just all the, you know, get up on Saturday mornings and watch cartoons and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
that's awesome. Interesting. Yeah. Brother John Comics. Lonely is absolutely fantastic. It is. Thorgood is a real talent. It has such a unique perspective. I agree. Yeah, she's fantastic. Libruski is a very big fan of Zoe Thorogood in many ways. I love Zoe Thorogood. I think she's, like I said, one of my favorite creatives in comics today by far. Yeah, she also did Rain, which was which your girlfriend might like because it's more horror esque.
Hmm.
She does just the artwork though. She doesn't write it. I believe it's adapted from a Joe Hill short story or something. But I don't think the comics were written by Joe Hill either. Let's see.
Solar, chill out. Sorry,
What what's your
my
cat's
cat.
name?
Solar.
Solar. Oh,
Mm. Call him my
that's
little solar panel. So he just sits there and basks in the sun.
Oh,
Chill
that's
out.
funny.
I will feed you in a sec. He's just pawing at his little box of food.
Oh, um, Alexander says, Labruski, give your dad Dark Knight Strikes Again.
Don't do that.
He
Don't
might
give him
like it.
any Frank Miller Batman.
Do you not like Frank Miller Batman?
I'm not a fan. No.
Oh my God, that's such a cute cat. Hold on.
Oh yeah, this is Solar.
Here, let
Sorry.
me.
Oh.
Oh,
He was born without a tail, so he has no tail. Um
oh,
yeah, but
poor thing.
he's chill. He's very fluid. You can just kind of do whatever, and he's very chill.
That's a
So
cute cat, I will
yeah.
say. Okay, I'm curious to know why you're not a fan of Frank Miller's Batman. I'm not necessarily disagreeing. I enjoyed The Dark Knight Returns, but not as much. Like, I think it's very much overhyped, to be honest. So I'm curious to know and like the sequels are just not good.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know your opinions on that.
Well, the art well, I'm not a big fan of of Frank Miller's art.
Okay.
I think a lot of it's kind of, especially nowadays, it's evolved into just chicken scratch.
It's horrible
It
nowadays, if we're being
it's
honest.
pretty bad. Back in the day, it wasn't as bad, so like I could deal with it. But I think year one, like it's your pivotal start to Batman, but I think it's just kind of boring. It doesn't really captivate me. Then The Dark Knight Returns is just like, again, it didn't really draw me in. It was like,
Yeah,
oh, old Batman. If I want to read old Batman, there's so many other stories,
sure.
you
Yeah.
know. And yeah, he did it first, and he like changed the way Batman was seen, and like I understand his influence, and I don't knock his influence. It's just the books he wrote were like not really for me.
I
I have nothing
complete
against him as a person. He seems like a nice old man, but
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know,
Yeah. I completely agree with you there. I think Batman Year One, I've read it a couple times, maybe 3 times now. Each time I'm like, I just don't see the hype around it. I think it's a little boring. I think, and you kind of hinted at this, it's important to like recognize what he did for the character of Batman, especially in like the 80s with both books. He did kind of revolutionize the character in a lot of ways. So I think it's important to like recognize that. But year one to me, I don't love the art style a whole lot, and I just don't find it super fun. Um, and yeah, Dark Knight Returns, similar thing. I do like Dark Knight Returns a bit better though.
that's fair.
Yeah. Captain Underpants, Cosmic, who is your favorite Hall of Nerds member? Uh-oh.
Me.
You.
It's me.
There you go.
There you go.
Uh,
I'm not gonna rank them. Okay, so first I would go.
let's do a tier list. Yeah. Oh gosh. Speaking of Hall of Nerds, I am curious how did that get started? Um,
um, so me, I was friends with Mac on TikTok as well as Nate. I was not friends with Stu at that. Like we were mutuals, but like we weren't like talking a lot. But Mac was talking to him, was like, "Hey, we should start a podcast." And then I was talking to Nate, and I was like, "Hey, we should start a podcast." And then me and Mac were telling each other about our podcast ideas, and they were like, "What if we just all four started a podcast?" And then that evolved into it, and then we brought Noah in to be our editor, and then he hopped in for an episode, and he just ended up staying. So Noah's
nice.
like, the newer fifth member, and that's kind of just how it happened. We just met through TikTok, and it just so happened to work out.
And how long have you guys been doing that now for?
Um, let's see, July of last year was our 1 year, so over a
Oh
year
wow.
and a half. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Holy smokes. That's awesome. It's great. It's a great show. I always try to tune in when I can and
yeah.
watch it. And yeah, you guys it seems like you guys have a good like chemistry, a good rapport with each other.
It's fun. It's
Yeah,
basically just four dudes just go in there and talk for an
sure.
hour. Yeah, we don't really do like a schedule. We used to do like a outline and a schedule and stuff like that. Now
Sure.
it's just like we go on and yap for an hour and have fun with it.
That makes for a good podcast, I will say. Um That's awesome. Tell me a little bit too about how you got started. Did you start out solely on TikTok, and now told me earlier that you don't do YouTube too much, but you do have a channel.
I do.
Um,
I did start out on TikTok. I just kind of
mhm,
posted hauls with just like a voiceover and some music. That was kind of how I started. Action figure hauls, comic book hauls.
sure.
And then I eventually got like more comfortable with it, and I started posting like my face on there and like actually showing the comics and talking about them.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it kind of just evolved into like doing comic book news and doing fan castings and little games with the filters and stuff. Um, but that's how just kind of like I got started. And then I want to say about not even that long ago, probably like 5 6 months ago is when I started doing YouTube. And I don't do it a lot. I kind of every now and then I'll do a vlog
Sure.
and send it over to my editor, and she'll edit it up and post it for me. Um, but I want to do it more, but it's so hard whenever it's like because I moved back with my mom because I'm saving up to move to Colorado to pursue like content full time.
Nice.
Um, so once I get my room back and I have my whole setup back, I'll start doing YouTube more.
Sure.
But that's just kind of where I am right now.
Nice. Nice. So what makes you want to move to Colorado to pursue content
Um,
creation?
so Nate actually lives in Colorado, and
Okay.
initially we were all talking about moving somewhere to do doing the podcast in person full time.
Yeah.
Um, and nobody wanted Florida. So then I visited Colorado, and I was like, okay, now I understand why, and this is the coolest place ever.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm down. It's a new experience. I wanted to do content full time anyway. In person podcasts do so much better than virtual podcasts.
Sure.
Like just statistically, they just have better engagement. And all the times that I've spent like with my friends just doing vlogs and hanging out, it's just something that I could see myself doing all the time. And I was like, I'm willing to take a risk and move across the country and see how it works out because I know I'll always have my family back here if it doesn't work
Yeah.
out.
I will say now's the time to take a risk.
Yeah, I mean I'm 23. I got
Yeah.
I'm not
Why not? You
old
might as
yet.
well. Colorado is a beautiful state. My dad says so too. Me and my family, we took a 2-week trip to Colorado, and parts of it were amazing. Parts of it were not so much amazing because we rented an RV and drove around the entire state for
Yeah.
2 weeks. And it's a family of 5. So that was the part that maybe
Yeah.
uh, was not so fun at times, but overall, it was an awesome trip. And yeah, it's such a beautiful state.
Did you have a favorite place? I loved Boulder so much. I thought
Um,
Boulder was so nice.
I'm trying to remember. Did we stayed at Boulder? I don't know. We definitely probably drove through it.
I
Um,
wasn't a big fan of Denver. It just reminded me of like downtown New Orleans, and like I'm from Mississippi, so I've been to New Orleans a bunch of times, and
okay,
it's not my
not
vibe.
your cup of tea. Yeah, no, I get
Yeah,
that. I didn't mind Denver. I thought it was pretty cool. I haven't been to like Orleans yet or anything. So, um, there's this small town called what was it called? Oh my gosh, I can't remember what it's called now. Let me try to look it up real quick. Um, oh gosh, what was it? It starts with an I. I don't know. Let me look it up. It's called the Switzerland of America. Ouray.
whoa, never heard
It's
of it.
it's called the Ouray. It's spelled Ouray,
Huh.
and it is beautiful. It's a very small town, but it's a town literally like in the mountains. My favorite spot in Colorado by far. Um, I like Colorado Springs a lot. I thought that was cool.
Mm.
There's let's see, my mom. This is my mom now. She's tuning in. My favorite part of
Hey.
Colorado was having us all cozy in the RV. Well, I'm glad, mom. I,
Your whole
no,
family watches. That's
yeah, they
awesome.
try to. I try to force them sometimes. Like you got to watch this one. Um, my brother, he's always good about tuning in. He likes the shows and whatnot. Let's see,
That's
Red
cool.
Rocks. Have you been to Red Rocks in
I
Colorado?
did. It was a
Yeah.
horrible experience.
Really?
But not because of Red Rocks. We
Okay.
went at a time of the year we thought there was going to be water flowing. We thought there were going to be rivers
Sure.
because to like get cool off stuff like that. So we start our walk through Red Rock. We're about half a mile through this 4 mile trail,
Oh my
and
gosh.
then we were like, "Hey, where's the water?" And we asked someone, they're like, "Oh, it's dried up this time of year." And we're like, "Crap!" And then about a mile and a half through this 4 mile hike, we ran out of water. And it's
Oh my
me, my
gosh.
mom, and my two little brothers. One's 12 and one's 5. So like
Ooh.
we're not like to the point of like dehydrating or anything. We're just like eating the last little cubes of ice in our like little thermoses trying to stay cool enough to make it to the end of this walk. And my little brother's tired and doesn't want to walk anymore, so you got to carry him. And it was just not a funny.
Uh-oh, I think we lost you. Let's see. Let's try to remove you and then add you back. Nothing yet. All right, I'm gonna solo this till Brandon comes back here. Let's see. I will ask him that, Nick, when he comes back. Oh, there you are.
There we go.
Okay, there you
Hello?
go. Yeah,
Oh,
I can hear you.
cannot hear you. Let's see.
Oh,
What the heck?
how about now?
Mic? Volume?
All right, let's wait for him to join back. Best steak ever. I do remember there was a. I think I got ribs there. I can't remember. Smoking ganja in the mountains. No, we were not doing that. Fam in the chat is awesome. Love to see it. Yes, I agree. Thank you, family, for being here. Much appreciated. Love you guys. All right, you're sideways.
Oh, come on. There you go.
All right, there you go.
Oh, it's, yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let me turn off my Wi-Fi too. The Wi-Fi's bad all of a sudden.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go. All right. Sorry. For some reason,
That's all right.
a call went through and it like messed everything up.
No worries, dude. No worries. Where in Colorado do you plan to move to? Maybe maybe you don't want to dox yourself. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know yet, actually. So
you don't know yet. Okay.
hopefully, like a nice area.
What's that?
I said hopefully like a nice area. I don't know
Yeah.
how expensive Colorado is in terms of like
Oof.
places to stay. So if I have to like stay outside of a city, I don't mind. But we'll see.
Yeah, it will be an adventure one way or the other. My dad says so in Colorado, I can't remember where it was, but there was this UFO like site, and it was like a camping ground too, and it was interesting. And there was this crazy UFO lady who like runs it, and I don't know, it's pretty cool. But it was in the desert too. I just can't remember where it was. Oh my gosh, the Manitou Incline. Have you heard of this at Manitou Springs? So I believe it's an old railroad track, and it's literally like straight up a mountain. And now it's out of commission, and they took the tracks off, and it's just like steps all the way up, and it is intense. We did that when we were there, and it's a freaking workout. Let me tell you. Yeah, I don't recommend it. I will say, it's a
I think
beautiful
I'll
town though. Yeah,
lots of stairs. I'm good.
Yeah, no, I was. Yeah, it sucked. And the day we did it, there was like a fog, and so what looked like the top was really the halfway point. So once we got past the fog, it was literally another half of the same thing. I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to do this, but
They couldn't have put an escalator instead of stairs.
all right, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Let's get back to some comics. What type of indie comics do you read? What have you read? I know you mentioned like Saga, Something's Killing the Children. Any others that like stand out for you that are like amazing indie comics that you really love?
Oh yes, I just read it recently. Patrick Horvath, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
Oh,
Really, really good.
I haven't read the whole thing yet. I'm waiting to I'm hoping they announce like a hardcover deluxe for it. So I'm kind of waiting for that. But I might just bite the bullet and get the trade. Because I'm really want to check that one out. That looks
it's like
incredible.
Zootopia meets Dexter is the best way to explain it.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I do own the first issue, I think. I don't know if I bought the second one. And I read it and I was like, this is amazing. I'm all in. So, and I think there's a sequel now coming out, I believe.
Yeah, it's announced. There's no like release date or anything, but yeah, he said he's working on a sequel, and he has a new series coming out that has nothing to do with that universe. I want to say in like March or April,
Okay,
and it's about like
awesome.
a gladiator fighting tournament where the richest people in
Hmm.
the world are forced to fight each other to keep their fortune.
We
Like,
should, that should be a real thing, I feel like.
yeah, it's like,
Uh,
and the rest. I think the rest of the money is just like given to the poor or something like that. It's
that
insane.
should very much be a real thing, I feel like. Let's see. My brother asked, "Do you plan to pick up snowboarding in Colorado?"
I want to try it. I don't know if I'm gonna be
Yeah,
any good at it because I suck at skateboarding, but we're gonna give it a go.
give it a go.
Yeah,
Snowboarding, I think snowboarding is easier than skateboarding for sure.
yeah. I mean, I've
It's
only seen
flex.
snow like 2 times in my entire life, so
Really? Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Actually, the first time was not even really snow; it just melted before it hit the ground.
Oh,
But
geez.
Florida, we just had like a huge like snow day. It hadn't snowed. Our record for snow in this area was 2 inches in the 1950s. We got 8 inches of snow in the panhandle of Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, 8 inches is insane. Like it was up to your shins in snow. It was
8 inches.
crazy. I had never seen anything like it. It was awesome.
That's awesome. I'm from upstate New York, so like 8 inches is
Oh,
like a mild snow day, you know?
yeah,
Um,
you've seen snow. Yeah.
yeah, and we just got hit with a pretty bad couple bad snowstorms like back to back last week and kind of the week before. But I love the snow personally. For me, it's just another excuse to stay inside and read comics. So I'm all for
Sure.
it.
I think I'll probably get to that point after seeing enough snow days. Like
Yeah,
for me, it was like, I was like freaking out. I felt like a little
yeah.
kid. I was making snow angels and throwing things, and I was like, "This is so cool." But yeah,
That
now I'm sure if once I get used to it, I'm like, I think I'll stay inside by the fire.
it yeah, it loses its charm, at least for me, pretty quick.
And we weren't prepared. We live in Florida, so I had to like for a face covering, I had to use a towel, and for my hands, I had to use socks. Like we didn't have like mittens or anything like that. It's Florida,
Right.
so I'm like improvising. I have a hoodie, so I had to wear like 2 hoodies and 3 pairs of pants, and we were
Oh my
not prepared
gosh.
for that snow day.
That's funny. That's funny. Um, yeah, my parents, they were from Florida originally, and
Really.
then they moved to New York. Yeah. And I feel like they told me once that when they were kids, it snowed once and, similar thing, like they were not prepared for it. Um, but yeah, like I said, I like snow. I don't mind it. A lot of people hate it, especially up here. You always get people complaining about the snow, and that personally for me, that's like a big pet peeve. I'm like, just move then. Obviously, it's not that
Move.
easy. It's not that easy. I get that, but I don't mind the snow. So,
Yeah.
um, my dad says 1977. I guess that's when it snowed when they were kids. Um, Another comic question I have for you here, and I think it's the last comic question. What's a comic that you would like to be adapted into a movie or show that has not been so yet?
Um, I I really would like to see Deceased as an animated like show. I think that would
Yeah.
be really cool. But just to not keep answering Deceased to your questions, um, I really want to see the Court of Owls done well. Whether it be live
Okay.
act or just yeah, in live action. I want to see it done really well in live action. And I think the DCU is the perfect place to do it. You know?
Okay, so you would prefer it in the DCU or like the Matt Reeves universe?
Oh,
What do you
definitely not the Matt Reeves because I
Okay,
want the Court of Owls as like the full. I don't want to have to dumb it down to realism. You know what I'm saying? Like I like
sure.
Matt Reeves. Like I said, one of my favorite. It's my favorite movie of all time, The Batman.
Yeah,
But if you're gonna do grounded villains for that, that's perfectly fine. But don't like neglect certain characters to make them grounded. Because the Court Owls it's a secret organization. Like that's easy enough to make grounded. But you forget their army is all undead soldier assassins that are
right,
like kept alive by freezing them. You know what I'm
right.
saying? So like, and then like the maze and the psychedelics, and it's all like very cool storytelling, like very fantastical storytelling that I would
Mhm,
like to see in the DCU. Plus, all the Robins or all the Bat family are big parts of that.
right.
So you need to have the Bat family, and you don't have that in Matt Reeves.
True. Yeah, so you want them to go all out. If they're gonna do Court of Owls, they
Yeah, do
should
it all
commit.
out. Yeah, I want to see him
Awesome.
hop in the Hellbat armor and start taking down Talons like he did in the comic. I want to see
Yeah,
Nightwing, like fighting his, great grandpa who's a Talon. I think
yeah,
it's got to have like all of it.
awesome. I think that'd be sweet. I It's interesting because I feel like a lot of people have been hammering for the sequel to the Batman to be the Court of Owls,
Yeah.
which I could see them doing. I know there were some teases in like the Penguin, um, so I don't know. I really love Matt Reeves' Batman universe so far. I think he's calling it like the epic crime saga, or I
How
can't
was that?
remember. Yeah,
I only heard just the Reeves verse. That's all I've heard.
yeah. I think it has like an official name now. I believe it's like the epic crime saga. So, but now there's rumors that it's going to be Hush, which was also kind of teased in the
See
first
that
one.
one, I like
Okay, I
that one.
I like the Hush comic. The just the first 12 issues or whatever it is. I haven't read like the other Hush stuff. I don't really care for Hush as a character. Like he's not the reason I love the comic so much. It's really because of the artwork by Jim Lee and
I
it
love Jim Lee so
feeling.
much.
Oh yeah, I mean incredible. And with Hush, it's like a roller coaster through different. We see different rogue members, and Superman's in there, and just Jim Lee's art is just incredible. So yeah, Hush is not the reason I love that book so much. And like I said, I don't know if I care for him too much, but if that's the way they're gonna go with the sequel to the Batman, I'm all for it. Yeah, I'm all for it. I think it'd be cool. I As long as we get more Penguin, I love the Penguin so
Yes.
much. He was my favorite part of the Batman by far. I find him to be so twisted, but so funny at the same time in a lot of ways.
Well, the
And I
crazy
mean,
thing is,
that's
like, I don't like Penguin that much as a villain in like comics.
yeah, right.
Yeah, I really don't care for him. And then that
Sure.
show made me like, like I love this. This is so
Yeah,
cool. You know,
it's so good. It's so good.
if you
Um,
like if you like the show a lot, check out Tom King's Penguin run
okay,
from all or was it All In? No, it was prior to All In. It was Dawn of DC. It's 12 issues and it has like the feel of like the Penguin show. It's
got it.
really, really
Okay,
good.
let me make a note of that.
It happens after basically after Batman, like like the whole failsafe arc. Um
Um, I know of it. I haven't read it, and to be honest, I don't know much about it.
well, what initiated failsafe was it was like an android that like would it's a contingency for Batman if he ever gets out of control. So if he kills someone, it activates the failsafe. Well, Penguin like faked his death, causing failsafe to activate, and that's what
Okay,
led to the whole failsafe arc. But Penguin, this is about him after he fakes his death and stuff like that,
gotcha.
and kind of
Okay,
him coming back to his rise of power in Gotham. It's pretty cool.
awesome. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. It seems like something I'd enjoy, and I do like Tom King as a writer. So we'll check that out. Um, okay, to the question that is not comic book related that I ask every show is, do you have a paranormal or supernatural experience or story that you had that has happened to you?
I do not.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer. I don't believe in ghosts at all.
Okay.
Or anything like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to go into a haunted house just in case I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not open. I'm not like closed off to the fact that I could be wrong. So I'm not
Sure.
going to put myself in that position to where I'm chilling in a haunted house and now I'm getting axe murdered by
Right.
a ghost. But I don't believe in them. I'm not going to test it. You know,
That's fair.
I don't
That's
think
fair.
there's a shark in this water, but I'm not going to swim in it just in case. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. It's interesting. I've had 3 guests who I've asked that question to, and they've all said similar answers where they're like, "I don't really believe in it." So maybe it's a bad question, and I'm waiting for someone to be like, "I have this crazy
Dude,
ghosty
yeah, you'll probably get
experience."
a cool story out of it eventually.
Eventually, it's a numbers games with this question. But I will say I'm similar to you. I'm very much more of a skeptic. I like a good ghost story. I like to entertain them. Any supernatural story, I guess, too. But at the end of the day, I don't really believe it. Um, But if I'm the last downstairs and turn off the lights, I am running up the stairs after I turn
Exactly.
off that
Yeah.
final light.
Yeah.
I'm not messing around with that. So, there is a part of me that is I don't want to say believer, but
Yeah. It's like
yeah,
the uneasiness of that stuff. It's not necessarily
for
like I
sure.
believe there's a ghost in this basement, but I'm not going to go in this unfinished, creepy basement because it gives me an uneasy feeling, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you
And I
there.
don't like bugs. I'm more terrified of bugs than ghosts. So,
That's a more realistic fear, I feel like,
yeah.
you're much more likely to encounter a bug, than a ghost.
I mean,
But what about, like, aliens? Do you believe in aliens and stuff?
I
Do you
do.
think
I mean, I don't believe in like the typical sense, like the big head, gray, aliens that we see on TV. I don't know if those are real or not,
Mhm.
but I do believe that like there's definitely life out there. There's no way like if space is infinite, there's
Right,
no way that there's not another solar system where the
right,
sun was in the perfect place and this planet was in a perfect place to sustain life and this
right.
organism evolved into this that evolved into intelligent life. There's no way that that hasn't already happened. Now I don't know
Yeah,
if I believe that we've made contact with them,
yeah.
but they have to exist out there somewhere.
I would agree. I think, it's called the Goldilocks zone, which is the zone that is a planet needs to be away from the sun to, be able to produce life, I guess, essentially, and,
Yeah.
I feel like you said, I mean, the universe is infinite. I pretty much agree with you. I don't think necessarily we made contact or they made contact with us. Um, but I do have another book suggestion by James Tinian. It's called Blue Book, and it is a nonfiction. In their graphic novels, I don't know if they were released in issues, but like I said, they're retellings of true alien or true, right? Whatever you believe,
Yeah.
alien encounters. Um, so I would should suggest that Blue Book. I think it's a
Check
good
it
read.
out.
Yeah.
I'll write it
It-
down.
yeah, and I think he has 2 or 3 volumes out now of that. Quick reads too. They're not like dense or anything, and yeah, they're pretty good. Let's see here. Captain Underpants, Volume 2 of Penguin trade paperback is deal of the week on IST. No way. I just won a IST gift card. Do you know what IST is?
I don't Oh, in stock trades. Yeah.
In stock trades.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It took me a second to put together yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I just won a $50 gift card last night. So I'm trying to
I
figure
will
I'm
get
trying
you
to
volume 1 and 2.
yeah, I might have to. I might
Yeah,
have
it comes
to.
out this week, I believe. Penguin Volume 2. So,
Okay, sweet. I'll have to check it out then. Um, yeah, I'm like trying to put my list together of trade paperbacks that I'm gonna buy because they're so cheap on IST too. I'm like, I can get like 5 trades and that will last me, a couple months probably. Nick Bruno, my good friend Nick is in the chat. What is up? We have Legion of Comics. What's up, homie? Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Legion also agrees Tom King's Penguin was fire. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. I will I wrote it down, so I will check that out right now after I get off this stream and I'll look on IST. But I actually think that's gonna do it for today's episode.
heck yeah.
Once again, thank you so much for coming on. I had an absolute blast.
Yeah, thank you for having
Um,
me. I love doing these because it's just like
yeah.
you just get to
Uh-oh, we lost you again. All right, we'll wait for you to come back before we end. But let me jump to the chat here and see what is up. They need to do a Riddler show. That would be cool. Let's see. Um, Thank you, Brother John Comics. I hope you're doing well. All right. We lost you again. Who keeps calling Cozmik? I know. Uh, that the chat is popping tonight. It's always popping, dude. You wouldn't know though, Nick, because you're never here. It's always popping. Um, yeah, we need to let that person know he's doing a show. Hail Mary by Andy Weir, great alien encounter book. Yes, I do agree. I did enjoy that. That's more. That's very sci-fi, though. I will say. All right,
Yeah,
all right.
dude, no one wants
No,
to call me ever until I'm doing something.
no worries on that front, dude. But yeah, like I said, thank you again for coming on. I had an
Thank you for
absolute
having me, for real.
blast. Absolutely. Everyone, go check out the Cozmik Collectors TikTok. Link to that in the description below. And yeah, thanks so much, everyone, for watching. And we will catch you in the next off the cuff interview. Take care, everyone.
That's it.